talk about the VOD and the silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 754, Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles.
How many of these have we done?
Turtles?
Have we done at least 3 of them?
No, I think we did the first Michael Bay one.
We didn't do the
And
second
then we
one?
said we quit.
And then I don't think we did the second one.
Okay.
And that's all we've had during our 10-year plus run.
See, well, with the misbegotten sequels, we could have done the original Turtles
We
movies.
could have.
But a misbegotten sequel has to start from an actual good movie.
Oh, the first Turtles movie is good. Really good.
Because you were the right age when it came out.
Oh, we don't have we have an hour. We don't have time to get into it. Let's continue.
So let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. And joining us via the magic of ZoomTube is Justin from Epic Film Guys. Hello.
Hey, this is once again, it's a pleasure to be here, especially for such a movie as Mutant Mayhem. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So before we jump in, shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us while you're there. Be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. That's always super helpful. Joe made a noise. Does that mean we have a review?
We do. Yeah, sorry. I gotta find it.
Okay, while he does that, I'll do
I
the
like
other
that
stuff.
he cued you for, I've got that.
Yeah. So this is the professionalism that has kept us in business for 10 years.
Goddamn right.
He's just lucky we let him back in. Remember, we joked a couple weeks ago. We're like, oh, Joe's out. And if
It was last week.
No, it was like, if you don't write reviews, we're not letting Joe come back. And then he didn't come back on the next episode.
We are nothing if not men of our word.
That's true.
So also you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we are hoping you will share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode last week: Brad Hyan, circumventing the Brad Hyan rule. Gus Butisi, once again
sharing an episode that I wasn't on.
That the fruit of his loins was not on. I will let you draw your own conclusions.
Won't take much.
Travis Tewitt, Jason McLean, finally got that fixed, Jason. Chris Valls, Tom Dowdy, Gabriel Lugo, Chris Magic Man, Glenn Cougar, Melon Brewer, Julianne Jordan, Heather Sachs, Taylor Ward, Brent Smith, Christopher Rex, Edit Photo Gamer, David Rojas, Spoiler Piece Theater, Batman Rye Guy, Geek to Me Radio, The Film Bee, In Session Film, Ryan Terry, Mike and Oscar, Binge Movies, Colby Mack, Ronnie Castle, Nostalgia Cast, Feelin' Film, and Matt Naglia. So thank you very much for sharing the show. We greatly appreciate it. And we also have a review that might not be at the ready.
I got it.
Okay.
I found it. Love the pod. 5-star review. What's up, guys? I was introduced to this pod by Kevin B via being a guest on another pod, and I've been listening ever since. It makes my workday seem short, but maybe my day really is short. But anyway, IMF was revealed as Impossible Mission Force at the end of MI3.
Wow. Okay.
I've never seen. I've not seen the first 3.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I didn't start watching until the 4th one.
3's JJ, right?
Yeah.
3's JJ.
John Woo is Doves in 2.
It's not Brad Bird. Brad Bird's 4.
Brad Bird's 4.
Okay. Yeah. The 3's really good. After he saves Jules. Spoilers. Sorry for Mission Impossible 3. Thought I'd share that. Keep it up, guys. Marvin B. So thanks, Marvin. Thanks for checking it out. I want to know what podcast you heard Kevin on. Just out of curiosity.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month you get all sorts of bonus content, and we like you extra.
Yeah.
So there's all of that. Let's dig into the turtle, shall we?
This franchise, can you call it a franchise? Property,
because it's not. I feel like a franchise is like one series that continues.
Yes.
Where I feel like, oddly enough, Eastman and Laird have probably made more money by them continuing to make versions of turtle movies, and then but they're still convinced there's something there, so they keep doing it. Like,
Nickelodeon won't let it die.
yeah, like they just keep,
And that's okay.
They just keep going back to it, even though I don't feel like they've ever really made a good version of Turtles until now. I liked this movie.
This movie's fantastic.
This movie's awesome.
Yeah.
This is the best since the first one, hands down. I know Justin agrees with me on that one. The first one, no matter what Tom says, because he was an adult. He was 42 when the first one came out. He wasn't watching Turtles movie.
You liked that movie because you were the right age for it. Like
That is an art house. It was the highest grossing independent film for a long time. It has an art house aesthetic. Like the cinematography is beautiful. The practical effects are impressive. Jim Henson doing the costumes. That movie has so much going for it. I'm telling you. Like, have you ever even watched it?
I like it years ago.
It is really good. It is.
But the problem to me always has been that like the Turtles comic books, were not for kids. I mean,
and the movie is dark too.
They weren't not for kids, right?
No,
but
they were not.
They weren't like like super. They weren't like dirty or anything.
They were adult oriented.
They're
But they were
violent.
geared
They're
for
violent,
they were
yeah.
geared for grown-ups. And so whenever they made the movies, they never really made them with that kind of sensibility.
But the first one's dark. The first one
So,
is dark. It's
Much
gritty.
darker than anything else we've ever seen since then.
Yeah, it's almost like Batman '89 gritty. It has that kind of aesthetic to it, that kind of a tone.
It has that look to it, but I do like so. Right, so the first, I think the comic comes out in '87, or maybe earlier than
the
that.
cartoon came out in '87.
That's right, but the comic again. Tom and I were just talking about
Yeah,
it.
I think it's like 85 or 86 because I started collecting comic books when I was 17, so that would have been like 87.
Okay.
That was
And-
63 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was Action Comics number one. That's how
bought it off the stand.
how I can afford this
Right,
house. That's right. And
Can I tell you that if I ever had a time machine, I'm going to every corner store, June 1938, and buying every single copy I can
what?
find.
I mean, you could kill Hitler, but go ahead.
Yeah, right.
Use it to collect comic books.
because then you change the course of history. You don't know what's going to
You
happen.
being filthy rich will change the course of
that's
history.
also true.
That's
Can I do both? Can I do both?
It might do more damage.
It might, that's
than
true.
letting Hitler live.
I'm going to bag and board them immediately.
Yeah.
I'm going to get those
Even though
nine
bags
point
and boards
don't exist.
don't exist yet.
I'm bringing them with me.
Okay.
Like Doc with his briefcase
Joe's
of
gonna roll
random
it.
money.
Here's what happens. He goes back in time with bags and boards. Right? And then he gets there. And it's like the Twilight Zone where the guy breaks his glasses. He gets back in time and he's like, I didn't get golden age bags and boards.
I have to fold them in half
They're
to
all-
get them to fit.
That's my favorite episode of the Twilight Zone.
That's a good one.
Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a good one. So anyway, the book had been out for about a year or so because I remember I was completely new to comics,
Sure.
right? And I was just like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And it was like
It's a great cover.
It was like $300 or $400, and it was only like a year old. And the guy who ran the comic book store, Aaron Bergman, R.I.P., ran a
dang.
great show.
Yeah.
And I ended up working there eventually, but he was like, I mean, I was not going to buy it. I didn't have $300 when I was 17, but he's like, I wouldn't recommend buying it. Like
What?
Because he's like, there are so many forgeries out there. It
Yeah.
was because they basically made the comic on a photocopier,
Pretty much. Yeah.
And so he's like, it's so easy to fabricate this book that it's almost impossible to ever know if you truly have an authentic
First edition. First print.
printing
Because theirs were
of that book.
photocopies, so like
Yeah.
if you photocopied it, how would
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
And so, but it was also one of the few books I remember where like second, third, fourth, fifth
Yep.
printings still went for serious
Still
money.
do.
Yeah.
Still do.
So like the second or third one was probably like the real printing.
No, I mean you can. You've got to authenticate it. There are first printings out there.
Oh,
but
sure.
even
But I mean,
that, but
like, like instead of photocopied,
Oh,
like that,
oh,
like,
oh,
would be
yes.
hard to forge.
Yeah.
Yes. I think they've gotten up to like a seventh printing. Maybe
There
more.
were tons.
Yeah,
I
maybe
mean, I
more.
remember. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that. So that property happens, and obviously, if you don't know, it's Eastman and Laird loved Frank Miller's Daredevil, so they kind of just copied it. Not
Yeah.
kind of. I mean,
And they're poking fun at it.
Yeah. So
Good-naturedly.
the toxic waste that gets on Matt Murdock's face as a boy falls into a sewer and falls onto the turtles, and then we've got Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Splinter, Matt Murdock's mentor, his name was Stick, so Splinter is the
Yeah.
rat. And the ninjas in the Daredevil run are called the Hand. So the ninjas in this are called the Foot. So it's like, you know, they're playing off of all of that stuff.
Right.
And I got to tell you, as a kid, didn't know that.
Right.
Had no idea. But now in years, like, okay, makes sense. And they have, I mean, the cartoon is 87, and that, you know, prime time for me.
That's what I grew up with. I had the Technodrome.
I
I
had
had the
all that
Turtle
stuff.
Mobile. All the
A friend of the show, Brian Spath, you should see the amount of turtle stuff that guy's got.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
The amount of turtle collecting now is even more huge than it was then. And I don't remember any kid that you went to their house around that time frame that didn't have Ninja Turtles. Like everyone had Ninja
or
Turtles.
something.
It was just
or
everywhere.
If you didn't have the
was
original,
Turtlemania.
if you didn't have the original 4, you had some wackadoo variation of, because it was like
I had the robot one, Metalhead.
That's how I learned how to ride a bike.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
I'm not even kidding. My mom, training wheels, right? My mom said, if you can ride that bike without training wheels, we'll go buy Metalhead.
That's awesome.
So I took the training wheels off that day.
Yeah,
Went down to the local church parking lot and destroyed myself trying to ride this bike, and then I did it and I was like, let's go.
I learned how to ride a bike, and I had a Ninja Turtles helmet. I had
We didn't wear helmets as kids.
See, and that's why I still can remember. That's still why I can remember movie years.
That's true.
But my bike, I think it was a Turtles bike, but I also had the Turtle helmet. I think it was a Donatello helmet, but I have pictures of me learning to ride with training wheels.
Yeah.
With the helmet. Yeah, I mean, it was just huge.
Can I show you the age disparity here?
Yeah. What did you leave it to Beaver?
My bike was badass. My bike was Evel Knievel.
That's fair.
I had an Evel
That's fair.
Knievel Huffy bike.
Yeah.
Okay, I think our connection is fading.
What was it? Who was the Keanu Reeves character from like Toy Story?
Like boom,
Duke Kaboom.
There we go. Yeah, but yeah, I mean that. I had that toy that's
Sure.
referencing where
Right.
you put the Evel Knievel and you turn the thing, and then it would go like 3 inches and fall over. Like it was, like it never worked like what you saw.
3 inches and fall over.
Yeah,
That's the story of Kevin's life.
yeah. But
Interesting
yeah,
enough, I had to bring up real quick. This memory just popped in my head. I actually remembered right now the first time I got a Ninja Turtle action figure.
Yeah?
And it was in Lancaster, PA. I think I was like 5 years old, 4 or 5. It was a store that's no longer in existence. It was at the local mall called Clovers.
Not
And I
here.
remember it now, like vividly walking up and seeing the shelves filled with them, and my mom being like, "You only get one."
Oh no!
And I remember. Can anyone guess which one I grabbed?
Michelangelo,
Leonardo.
Nope.
Raphael.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a process of
1 in 4 shot.
elimination.
See, so my guy, Leonardo. How about you?
I was Leonardo.
Okay. And Justin Raphael then was your...
Yeah, he was cool but rude, man.
Yeah. I always liked Leonardo because he was the leader. Like,
Yeah,
I
no,
just
I thought
liked...
he was
I don't
the
know. I
coolest.
liked the swords.
I
and
also-
I liked that he was
I
the-
never cared enough to tell them apart. And I always thought it was like,
Well, that's
why did you tell them apart with different colored bandanas? Oh, okay. Oh, the comic book is black and white.
Yes,
So
correct.
Yeah, they only
And
did
then-
that for the toys.
And then when they they colorized the comic, they were all red. All of them were red. So you're just like, I think that's only
Kevin,
by name.
can you enable share screen on our Zoom?
Oh, sure.
But it so 87, right? The cartoon hits in 87, and it is off to the races.
Hang on, I'm showing you my badass bike.
Oh, that's dope.
1976.
I gotta tell you,
Hey.
I'd ride that bike.
If you could, if a 7-year-old could get, I would have been swimming in it.
Oh,
That thing looks like it
that's
could
so
take a
good.
beating too.
What's that?
That thing looks like it could take a beating too.
It
Like,
was-
back then. They made
solid-
Oh yeah,
solid metal.
That is, that is solid steel.
That's a
Oh, that
tank.
was totally steel. Because
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
older, I kept the bike and
Look at those tires.
Yeah.
So when you were interested in girls, when you're
Yes.
16, you took them out on that, huh?
Does it have shocks on it?
Yeah, I
That's crazy.
I rode that bike until I got a 10-speed, probably around 14ish, and then but when I got older, like when you're 10, you can't ride a bike like this anymore.
No,
It's for little
it's for kids.
It's for little kids.
Yeah.
So I took all the fancy stuff off of it and sanded it down and painted it black and got a different seat.
Okay.
So
That's dope.
Which
That's
now
a good
that
look.
bike would be worth $5,000 and you painted it.
I don't know if people collect old bikes like that or not.
I'm sure they do.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's a
Probably
good one.
out there.
But yeah,
So, how many school buses did you jump is the real question.
Just one.
Just one. And it was a short one.
But yeah, so 87 happens, the cartoon pops off, and it is off to the races. The movie comes out in 90. You got 2 subsequent sequels after that. Secret of the Ooze, starring Vanilla Ice.
Which when you watch the first one and
It's
then you go to
very
the second,
different.
you're like, oh.
It is. I like the second one, but
I do too.
I mean,
you didn't
I-
notice as a kid. You didn't notice.
No,
Yes,
no.
I think that second one is a lot of
it's
fun.
It's hard to revisit, and you're just like, oh, but no. I mean, as a kid, I love the third one as a kid too. Like,
I did
loved
not
all
love
of them.
that. Like it. The third one is interesting because
Well, the third one is directed by Joel Schumacher, right? And then that's when it.
no, that's
No.
Batman. That's Batman. There's an age jump for me,
Yeah.
where like it gets to the third one, and I am just like aging out a little bit. Where I was like, oh.
Well, you know, I love time travel, so
That's
you
true.
know,
That's true.
You give me
Dude,
turtles, you give me time travel.
I saw the Ninja Turtle musical.
I did too.
Yeah,
It
coming out of their shells.
Riverport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I feel like I saw mine
It's out.
in like the Fox or something.
I don't know.
Did you watch the Barbara Walters turtle interview?
No. Oh, probably.
That's a real thing.
Yes, I probably did
It is
for
real.
sure.
Yeah.
I think it was at like the old hockey
Really?
stick. Yeah,
okay.
I
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure I went to Riverport to see it, but
Possible.
I have the VHS still of the
and like-
behind the scenes.
It's
Damn right you do, Kevin.
Yes, I do, sir.
It's crazy that this property has had the longevity that it has had. B has had so many. I mean, it's countless. Honestly, iterations.
It's one of those things where it's brilliant in that it's an elevator pitch, and the elevator pitch is the name. Like,
Yeah.
all you have to say is the name.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You're like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you're like,
That's just cool.
I get it.
Okay.
I'm on board. Like,
Kids,
yes.
but they're ninjas. They're
I don't know
turtles.
what comes next,
Yeah.
but do it.
Let's go.
Yes.
And I will say regarding this one, this is the first time I remember feeling like these were kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like it's in the
They
movies.
never actually wrote the turtles as kids. Like, even though they're supposed to be teenage, like nothing in the first movie, as much as I love it, makes me think that they're young.
Yeah.
I feel like they're in their early 20s.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
they
agree
just-
with you. I
like
totally
College
agree with you.
age.
Yeah,
They talk, the lingo,
Even-
the dial, all that
right.
shit.
But none of them
like-
talk like kids in the.
Well, even
original.
in the Bay stuff, like when you get Johnny Knoxville to be the voice
Well,
of
he wanted them
Leonardo.
to be aliens. Remember, he just turned
God,
it back
that's
to
right.
mutants.
I forgot about
and
that.
that's why they look so weird. Is because the original design was aliens, and they like
So
tweaked it a little
dumb.
bit. Like, okay, we'll make them look like
they
turtles.
they
again.
pulled a Sonic. They're like, well, man, we gotta write this
I
shit.
mean, they
real
dumbed
quick.
down the designs in Out of Shadows, I believe.
Yeah.
The sequel, the base sequel, this produced sequel. They toned it down a little bit, but still, by making them so huge and the voices and stuff, they did seem even less like teenagers in those movies.
Yeah, I totally agree. So in this one, they are like the size of the turtles. They feel right, like in the world.
I like it when they make them different sizes. I like it
Yeah.
when they, when Raphael
Well,
is
I mean,
bigger.
even like height wise, right? Like they're for the most part, they're on the same level as April O'Neil. Like they're not towering over her, but they're not tiny. So they.
But
just
I like how they
feel-
make them look different, though. It's not just a bandana color.
Yeah.
Each one has a different look. And in this one, I mean, obviously, it's a suspension of disbelief. We're starting off with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and work back from there. But like, I like how Donatello has glasses, and I think
from the-
Michelangelo
that-
has braces.
That's from the Michael
Okay,
Bay one.
but if they've never left the sewer, where did he get an orthodontist?
Well, yeah, no, it
it's a
makes
great
it makes
question,
absolutely
yes.
no sense. But I just
question.
I do like
The
that
glasses I'll allow because like maybe
can
you
find-
found the glasses,
yeah.
maybe they're just readers like mine, right? Like that, you don't know.
Yeah.
But like, but the
Who knows?
braces,
Maybe in his off time, Splinter studied to be an orthodontist.
yeah, Splinter was a smart dude.
I
He
need
learned.
I need a line of dialogue.
No, there's no.
Jesus,
But,
a Turtles movie. I need a lot.
But I think, but this kind of goes back to what we talked about in Barbie, and we talked about in like Mermaid, and some of these movies where it's like, they made the turtles kids, right? Like, so they're relatable,
and they're voiced by kids,
and they're voiced
Yeah,
by kids,
yeah.
but also
I
like
wonder what they'll do for sequels as these kids age. Are they going to
AI?
Are they going to Charlie Brown it, where they just get a new group of kids
Probably.
all the time?
That's what it is they've been doing. I mean, you don't see Corey Feldman coming back to the voice of Donatello, do you?
Oh, you can't
he
afford
did in part 3
a
though,
megastar.
Did he
like-
really get all the way to part 3?
because he left for part 2 because he went to rehab, and then they brought him back for part 3.
Okay.
But what I like is it's like, so you've got the target audience is kids and teens, and you've got not only kids voicing them, but you got a kid with braces and with glasses. It's like, again, they're giving more of that
missing a tooth.
Yeah, they're giving more of that representation. Where I know as silly as it seems because they're turtles, but if kids are watching this stuff and it's like, well, my favorite heroes never wear glasses. Like you just you think of superheroes and powers, they don't wear glasses.
It's actually funny you bring that.
Well, to cover that's exactly because how could he be Superman?
But it is funny.
On top of that, Kevin, to jump off of that, not just different looks, different personalities.
Yeah.
With those voices, they're even more specifically individual in this one than any of the other ones we've seen. Of course, we have those, very base level personalities like Donatello's the smart one, Raphael's the angry rude one, Michelangelo's the party dude. But here it really does delve a little bit deeper into that, not as deep as it could, but to have deeper representation for people that have, that this is really my turtle. Like I can really relate to this one.
Yeah, I appreciate the personalities they gave each one, and I like that the look kind of went along with it. So I think they're great designs. First of all, this movie is gorgeous looking. I love the animation. I
love the fact that it doesn't try to look like a DreamWorks or a Pixar.
It has like influences from that.
Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Verse clearly. we talked about this. When we talked about the first Spider-Verse, we said,
watch.
People are going to try to recreate it. Puss in Boots, which was a great movie, had this animation
Mitchell's
style.
Machines.
Mitchell's vs. Machines, the same co-director as this movie's director, Jeff Lowe. And then now this one, and it's interesting that all the movies that have kind of cribbed that style have been really good.
It's interesting, like I can tell this is because of Spider-Verse, but it doesn't look like a knockoff of Spider-Verse.
No, because
not at all.
it looks hand drawn, like
right,
it's rough.
They went back to what the Turtles comics looked like.
I agree with
and
that.
then adapted that into an animation style. I feel like instead of copying Spider-Verse, they let Spider-Verse free them from the kind of Pixar prison.
Yes.
That and Pixar has made amazing movies. I'm not bagging on Pixar, and they've made beautiful movies, but everybody's been trying to mimic that style for 30 years.
Disney did it.
Well,
right?
now Disney looks like Pixar. They
Yeah,
all
you
look like
can't tell.
Pixar.
You can't tell the difference between Disney feature animation and a Pixar movie.
Nope.
Not at all.
And I
not
think
anymore.
Disney's gotten better recently than
Yeah,
Pixar.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
But so like they use Spider-Verse as kind of like, oh, we don't all have to look like this. And so
that's their pitch to studios, right? We're not going to greenlight a $100 million movie that doesn't look like Pixar. Everyone wants Pixar.
Right.
And then Spider-Verse does what it does, and you're right. It frees them from those shackles.
Yeah, clearly everyone doesn't want that. I mean, at this point.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Give me more movies that are unique in their art style, and I'll go see them. I don't care if it's Turtles. Like, if it looks visually exciting to me, and I'm going out to the movies to be entertained, like, this was the perfect option for a Turtles movie because we haven't seen someone give them this kind of fresh coat of paint. And since the first movie, everyone just kind of gone, oh, it's a Turtles movie. The Bay movies looked like Transformer movies.
Let the subject matter dictate what your art style is going to look like instead of just, this is what an animated movie looks like, right? Like, animated movies are not a genre.
Right.
It's a medium, not a genre.
Right.
But I think the studios oftentimes forget that, and so they think, well, cartoons look like this, and therefore all cartoons must look like this.
Yeah, I think, Justin, to that point, I think that the Turtles have gone through, countless iterations, right? Like there's the cartoon version, there's the comic version, there's the
cartoons
version.
The cartoons are really would have kept it alive, right? So
absolutely, and the other cartoon version
since Nickelodeon, Paramount.
And when did they buy it? Do you know? Out of curiosity.
I don't know exactly when that happened, but they're the
early 2000s. It was like it wasn't that long before. I think after the first reboot animated series.
Okay,
they bought it,
and they just keep. I mean, there have been so many different cartoon iterations, but
they bought it in 2009.
Holy,
yeah, but that's because Paramount, CBS Viacom acquired Nickelodeon, right?
It says Viacom published a press release announcing it had bought the complete rights of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise from Peter Laird for $60 million.
But they were working
I think I'm
with
thinking when Kevin gave his rights and sold them to Peter.
But I think they were working with them before. So even though they
had been
acquired
doing
them,
so, but they didn't flat out own it until 2000.
But the Paramount, like, they've been working on this series for the past 20 years, and they just keep evolving. But it's kind of perfect because you think about how many generations, like, there's never been a generation since they came out, since ours, that has not had a Turtles.
Some version of the Turtles.
And so it doesn't matter. Like, kids watch Nickelodeon, they age out, but then they put a new series on. Those kids watch Nickelodeon, they get their Turtles and their toys, they age out, they do another one, and they've done it so systematically.
There's
There's really no other. I can't think of any other property
There
that stayed around that long.
No,
No,
I think, Justin, you are. That's exactly what I
other
was trying
than
to say.
comic book movie, other than Batman, other than that
Even
stuff.
Batman, Scooby-Doo is spot on.
That Scooby-Doo.
But they don't really change the look of Scooby.
Oh, both.
You think, like costume-wise?
Not costume-wise, but the art style.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been through a lot of versions.
But I think even in superhero stuff, right? Like, Superman had the same costume from not 1938. That's a very different looking costume. But like probably from like the 60s until like they killed him and they gave him a black suit.
But to that point, Super Friends, animated series,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Justice League, new whatever. Like they reinvent it over and over, and each kid gets their each generation has
And if
their
any of
new
these
version.
any of you kids out there like the new 52 version of Superman, you're very wrong. It's really bad.
Kids today.
They're so silly.
Oh,
Stupid
goodness.
high collars and extra lines and such.
But this movie, I love that when we're talking about the animation, I love that they made it original.
It's so good.
It felt like its own thing, but I'm so glad Spider-Verse opened the door like we talked about, because the other kind is getting kind of boring. And Mitchell's vs. Machines looked amazing. And again, this is the same director, so he's like...
It is a shame that did not go theatrically.
Yeah.
That should have made $1 billion because it's so good.
But it won Best Animated Feature.
I agree with
so that's impressive. It's a Netflix.
That's fine, but let's get those creators paid, right? And when you know what I'm saying, everything that's going.
The creators are Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So I think
like the director or
Jeff Lowe has directed a Ninja Turtles movie. So you know what I'm saying? Like
right.
I'm thinking.
Given everything that's going on right now with all of the strikes, something tells me that Jeff Lowe would have made more money had this been in theaters. Now, because of COVID, I understand it. It got out there.
It kind of had to.
It had to do what it had.
Yeah.
But man, that movie is so good.
It's so good. And I'll tell you what, Jeff Lowe's the guy that worked on Gravity Falls, one of the greatest animated shows of all time.
That's also fantastic.
Mitchell's vs. Machine, best animated feature, and just an amazing animated film. And then this Turtles movie is great, and I'm like, Jeff Lowe.
He's hooked up with Seth Rogen.
Yeah,
that's another one we should talk about real quick. Is Seth Rogen and who's his Evan Goldberg, who have made so much money in their career, right, that they can basically produce anything they want.
Oh yeah.
So the Invincible TV show, which is incredible. If you've never read that comic or watched that show, I will champion that till the end of time.
The Green Hornet movie.
All right.
I like the Green Hornet.
I appreciate it now. I remember watching like, this is dumb. But once I realized what they were doing.
I was just happy that we were seeing a new Green Hornet movie because I grew up actually watching the show.
Yes, you
whenever
did.
I could find it.
Yes, you did. And it's almost impossible to find now.
It's not as bad as another movie with green in the title, so,
Behind the Green Door?
That's true.
I was thinking Green Lantern,
but
I'd rather watch Green Hornet than Green Lantern.
Man, that Green Lantern movie is real bad.
But
I stand by Green Lantern or Green Hornet.
Oh,
I think Green Hornet was a lot of fun.
Green Hornet was fun.
I think it's worth a rewatch with different we're making fun of this. Like this is not serious.
But yeah, no, they're a force. Did they do Constantine? Which other one did they?
Constantine.
No, they did Preacher.
Yes, they did Preacher, which is like an unfilmable comic.
Yeah, I didn't even try it because I was like, "There's no way."
It's okay,
especially on AMC.
I gotta tell you though, the guy that plays Cassidy, chef's kiss, like right off the page, so good.
So these guys, obviously, they love comics, and they're getting to make. They can just make whatever they want based on these properties they love,
and it's a hit every single time.
And they're really good at it. I mean, seriously, and it's so interesting to see Seth Rogen fall into this producer. He's been the funny guy for so long, and with us growing up over the past couple decades, all those comedies in the early 2000s.
Even going back to Freaks and Geeks.
Well, sure, Freaks and Geeks. But yeah, you've seen this guy as a comedian and just a really funny guy, and obviously he still is. But it's just interesting as a producer. It's like, man, this guy's really good at producing these properties.
It's almost I think of it as like the Affleck thing, where the dude Kevin Smith said, where he's like he's been around so many directors his entire career, right? That there just comes a point where it's like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
And you just
Affleck's a good director.
He
man.
is, and I think that's the same thing with Seth Rogen, right? Where he's just been around this business for so long.
He gets it, Like, not only is he a talented performer, but clearly he gets the business.
And he also gets these characters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like, his tastes are a little lowbrow, but he's super talented.
Yep.
And so when you hand him a property like Turtles, he gets it. Yeah. And I think the problem with Hollywood sometimes is they try to shoehorn in people who
don't get it. And so
who will kind of do their bidding.
Right. So his quote unquote lowbrow sensibilities really benefit him in this situation. And I just mean lowbrow in terms of like most people of his stature would probably feel like Turtles are beneath him.
Oh, sure.
But he probably also grew up with Turtles, and in the same way that Jason Segel was like, I want to make a Muppets movie.
Yeah. Yep.
And people were like, record scratch, sound effect, what? And, I think...
And he makes one of the best ones that they've ever done.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, it was the best one
No
since
doubt.
the original Muppet movie.
Right.
And I think that's what you got going on here.
Yeah. And, I mean, he produced...
You got actual fans.
Right.
For the first time in a long time. They're actual... I mean, I watched all the interviews leading up to the release of this thing, and literally everyone involved that they interviewed were like, yeah, here's a picture of me as a kid. And like you said, Kevin, with full turtle costume on, like out in the yard, pretending they were a Ninja Turtle. It's a case of actual fans sitting down and saying, like, we actually legitimately love this. We're not just pretending so we can get paid.
Right.
What would we do with this if we would make our own version of it? And, the result is Mutant Mayhem.
Like, that's the magic formula. I don't know why studios don't get it. I mean, clearly there's a lot they don't get based on what's going on now. But it's like, hire people that love the property.
Right.
Don't hire the next hot writer that's coming off of whatever and it made $1 million. Like, no, find the best writer for Turtles, for Batman,
At this point, you can even find established talented people who also love the property.
For sure,
right?
but they try to moneyball it, which I know sometimes moneyballing stuff works, but they go, Jeff Loveness from Rick and Morty that went and did Quantumania, which was terrible. It's like, oh, this guy's doing all this stuff, and I like a lot of his TV stuff. I like his Rick and Morty episodes and all that, but it's like, oh, we're Warners, we own this, so we'll get them to do this, or whatever, however they do it. You know what I mean? He's a superhero guy or got some connection. We're going to just play.
He was writing comics for Marvel, I think.
Okay, Marvel. Okay, so we're playing Moneyball here with this stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It didn't. Maybe you should have got the guy that's like really into Ant-Man,
that's not a thing.
But there's someone that's really talented that loves that character and not just like the hot.
This is what I've been saying about the DC stuff, comic book movies in general, right? If I was in charge of Warner Brothers, having James Gunn and those guys, I think is fine. But you need a Mark Waid, you need a Bruce Timm, you need a Paul Dini. Like, you need those guys in the room with you who do love those characters, who you can, some James Gunn spits an idea and Mark Waid's like, actually, let's do it this way. And you capture like what those characters are. They tried that with Marvel. I think they had like Joe Quesada and Brian Bendis. I think there was like a comic books like...
There was a brain trust for the movies that were based on... Yeah, it was Brian Michael Bendis.
And then that was gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like Jeff Loeb is another guy who worked... Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, who were both... Tim Sale, R.I.P., unfortunately. But I think you're absolutely right. I think you do need to bring those people to the table where it doesn't just feel like a corporate thing. And that's what happens here is this... yes, it is the Paramount, Nickelodeon. It's a corporation, obviously. But you've got a level of love and reverence for the Turtles that comes across on screen. I mean, Spider-Verse is very different. I think Phil Lord and those guys love Miles Morales? Probably not. Right? Like, he's a new character.
He's too new for them to have grown up.
Do I think they love Spider-Man?
They love Spider-Man.
But they love Spider-Man.
But they love Spider-Man.
And because they have a love for Spider-Man, they were able to embrace Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they were able to...
give you Peter B. Parker.
And I think because they're creatives, that they can embrace the change and the freedom that a new character like Miles Morales offers, instead of seeing it through the prism of, why are you raping my childhood?
Sure. But that's kind of the advantage of the Turtles, right? Is you really aren't locked down to a certain
You're not really
thing.
beholden to any.
There's not a canon.
No,
for turtles.
you need 4 turtles and a rat.
Yeah.
And a ooze, and let's talk about that. So they kept it fresh with the origin story. You know, they changed it up a little bit. They get rid of the whole Daredevil origin, you know, from the original.
Sure.
But I like it though. It's like, so you've got Baxter Stockman, who's played by Giancarlo Esposito. So I didn't know he was going to be in such a
resident bad guy.
Yeah,
He's not.
I didn't know he was going to be in it for such a short amount of time.
Don't worry.
But anyway, but he's working in his lab, and you see all the little animals. You see Bebop and Rocksteady, but they're little tiny animals in these test tubes
Floating.
Yeah. You see his pet fly, who is going to go on to be the villain of the film, and Maya Rudolph plays a character named Cynthia, who's like part of this
TGR.
task.
So it used to be-
TGRI,
but TGR, but they don't call it
TGIF.
But they call it
They call it TCRI. in this, but I
TCRI.
remember it being, because I have a Turtles 2 hoodie. It literally says TGRI.
It's TGRI,
I was like,
which I thought was
I was
weird.
like, did they change it?
I
for
guess they
this?
changed it.
Yeah, which I thought was they kept saying. I was like, that's not right.
Yeah.
Can you go do another take? Like, that's not right.
So there must be.
Honestly, I was wondering if it was something that it was early on in the comics or something that they changed later or something.
I don't
was
think
like,
so. I mean, I always, granted, I remember that from Turtles 2,
Yeah.
right? Like the canister of
There
ooze.
must be a well, I didn't look it up. There must be a reason why they changed it. But so she's kind of like this Amanda Waller-esque figure who's sitting in this the office, this task force. But anyway, we see that she wants to break in and get this ooze. His
Stockman
research.
has developed like the thing they can't. He's unlocked the key to make these mutants work, and of course she sends in her bodyguards or whatever, Task Force X.
Yeah.
And of course it goes wrong.
Yeah.
And we think that Baxter dies. He didn't.
Really?
No. He becomes a fly.
Well, yeah, but then this one, it's like you have Superfly being that. I didn't know if they were going to.
Oh no, they'll bring Baxter.
Oh,
back.
so you think he's
They're going to bring him back.
Yeah.
For
He's
sure.
the main
There's no way
character.
they would. Yeah, they have to bring
Baxter's-
him in. I mean,
Baxter-
I saw some complaints that people were like, "Well, why didn't we get Baxter Stockman as the main villain?" And to that point, I think they made the right decision.
I totally
with
agree with you.
Superfly.
Superfly is awesome.
They're clearly
Yeah.
they're clearly making a point to not strip mine this franchise in
From
the first
Jump
movie.
Street.
Yeah.
To not, I mean, it's the same thing with the Joker. If you just put the Shredder in every single thing, it's going to be boring.
You get the tease for Shredder at the end, but he's not in the movie. You don't even get a tease for Casey Jones. Like they're clearly like aware of the fact of that there's a limited rogues gallery here, so they don't want to.
And we're putting all the mutants in this one.
Yeah, and so they don't want to throw it all against the wall in the first movie. And this movie is ultimately a little light on story.
It is.
And I think it benefits from that.
I agree.
Like, I think it gives it room to breathe. And
You get reintroduced to these versions of the characters.
yeah, and it allows it to be silly and funny and not try to cram so much story down your throat that you don't need. It's Teenage
Definitely
Mutant Ninja
not.
Turtles.
Right, that's
Like,
the
I
elevator
don't-
pitch, right?
God damn it! Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, because that's what I've been saying
Yeah.
ever since I saw this movie.
Yeah, like you don't like. I mean, it's Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's a bunch of guys. It's 4 guys running around New York City trying
Four
to
guys running
stop
around New York
Sergeant
City.
getting blown up.
New York doesn't like them, and then they fight a giant monster in the streets of New York, and now New York loves them. The end.
And then they go to high school.
And then they go to high school.
Yeah,
So
Ghostbusters didn't do that.
they didn't do that. It was-
So
I still don't know about that ending. I'll say that much now. I don't know if we're gonna get to that at some point. That was like one of the only moments of the movie. I'm like, I get what they're doing, but it just seems really. Weird to
I mean,
but whatever.
it's
I'll go with it.
Spider-Man. Like, I don't know if I'm like the whole New York teaming up.
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
like
a
the-
little bit like we've seen it so many times now, and it's usually a Spider-Man thing. They've done that
I'm
a
also
couple-
I'm fine with New York accepting the Turtles. Of
course.
Right? That's the
Mario did it too.
right.
Mario Brothers just did it too, where everyone that was helping the plumbers
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Well, when one of the key themes of the movie is acceptance, I think it kind of lends itself to being allowed.
I guess I don't mind New York just seeing them save the
But
day
also-
and liking them. Like, I don't know about the pitching in. Like,
Right.
that's just
As a guy from the Midwest who knows absolutely nothing about life in New York City, something tells me that if they saw a rat walking down the street, they'd be like, "That's weird."
Dude, you see rats walking down the street every day in New York City. I'm telling
Or
you
like
right now.
you see like the 4 turtles, you're like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
So they give us the origin story. We see the monsters and everything, like they're gone. So Cynthia does not get them in that research. But we see the ooze. One of the ooze canisters goes down the drain. It infects the whole sewer. And then we later on learn Splinter's origin, and he's voiced by Jackie Chan, who I think does a great job. This is
I've always said Jackie Chan is one of the most underrated comedic actors that you will ever find.
Well, for anyone that watched his early movies, they're comedy action movies.
He's very influenced by Charlie Chaplin and stuff, and the silent film era.
The physical comedy in those movies is...
and I can actually see his physicality in the performance of Splinter. I don't know. I mean, I know they didn't do mocap for the movie or anything like that, but
they must have.
You could go back and watch one of his flicks and kind of just incorporate
I mean, everything, the way he raised his arms up and down, the way his mouth would move, and his eyes and stuff. Like it looked like Jackie Chan as a rat.
But this is maybe the best characterization of Splinter ever as a father figure who cares about his boys. Like, they did a great job with the writing of the character. I loved this writing.
That rat joke is really funny. That's a good joke where he's like, Leonardo's such a rat. And he's like, hey, you ratted us out.
Don't use it like that.
He ratted us out. Yeah.
Whoa.
Don't use it like that.
He's like, no, you're right. Sorry.
But I love the relationship. But we see, like, it is so cute. Those baby turtles are so damn cute. I could not help but to light up when you see the little turtles and they're rubbing on.
Nickelodeon's like, give us that baby Yoda money.
Yeah,
Come
right.
on.
I haven't had to Target right now. They have figures of them.
Of course they do.
But they're so adorable. But we see, so like Splinter was a rat and he's like, he's talking himself up like, oh, I was so popular and I had friends. He's like, no one liked me. And everyone's like, all the other animals are like intimidating him and shooing him away. And he ends up, finding the turtles in the sewer, and they go and they're really cute and they're like, goo goo gaga, you know, and rubbing up on him with the ooze. And eventually, like we see in the shadows, like he mutates. And it's so funny how he's like, I was an old rat, so I became an older rat. Yeah, it's just and
don't think about it.
Yeah,
I laughed at that line, actually.
He's just like, that's not what we're here for.
Same thing that Weird Barbie says. I love it sometimes. We're like, I know it's our job. Like, we sometimes analyze these things to death and we dissect them and stuff. But in some of these movies, especially superhero and comic book, I mean, you can question stuff all day. But at some point, just check back a little bit and just
enjoy it.
Yeah. So, but we see the
We're
turtles.
talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
And so we see how they grow up. And so they grow up together. But it's really this family dynamic that I think sells this movie. Is like the bond is believable. You feel that they care about one another.
That is the thing that I've always kind of gone back to once I heard it, is Richard Donner, when he was directing Superman, said this movie is not going to work unless you believe in Lois and Clark. Like, if you believe in them, like as a couple, then this is going to work. And I think that has been true for almost any of these things where you have these characters that can do these fantastic things, but you have to give them something that everybody can relate to, whether it's the father and the sons or the brothers or the acceptance or not,
That's why Guardians works so well. We say it time and time again. We'll never stop. James Gunn understands the heart of these characters, and where other recent Marvel movies have just been so mediocre lately. Yeah. And then you see Guardians 3 come out and you're like, oh, that's what we can do. Yeah.
This is what these were like 10 years ago.
We care about these characters and the writing, and it's not just, silly jokes and throwing so much humor at the wall. It's like you have to have the heart for these characters and so that you care about them. And I'll tell you what, it's just, again, the writing, which is Seth and Evan and Jeff co-wrote this movie, along with the two other guys, Dan Hernandez and
Benji Samit.
Okay, thank you. So there's 5 writers in this movie. But you had people that clearly love the Turtles. If you follow them on social media, they're posting nonstop about Turtles. Like Justin said, people are posting from their childhood. They got people who really care about the characters, and they didn't just write an entertaining kids movie. They wrote a movie that kids can enjoy, similar to Barbie, right? Like, I wouldn't call Barbie a kids movie, but kids are loving it. Adults are loving it.
Bella dug it. Bella's all in.
But it's a good movie. But this is another one where kids enjoy it, but it's not written like a quote unquote kids movie.
No, it's like Shrek.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Shrek has enough stuff for kids where it's like, funny fart joke, but they also whip some adults because they know the adults are in the audience as well.
This is a very similar tone, but the kids basically don't want to live in the sewer. Splinter's trying to protect them. He's doing the overbearing parent thing, and the turtles are like, we want more than this. I mean, we love Splinter and we love our home and everything, but like,
I got to tell you, there's a sequence in this movie that I thought was great.
What's that?
It is the first time we see the turtles on the top of the roof, and they've got
the Batman thing.
They've not only the Batman thing, but they are very Laird and Eastman.
They're drawn like the original comic.
They've got the whiteout eyes, and they've got like the lightning strike behind them.
Oh, it's badass.
It's so cool.
It's so good.
And Leonardo's talking like Batman. That's the other thing I wanted to mention too. So this is a Paramount movie, Paramount Nickelodeon on the Turtles. They do something in this movie that I wish more movies did. So we look at a Disney Marvel movie. What do? Every single movie reference is a Disney reference.
Because it's cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
It's easy. You don't have to worry about the other studio throwing
getting
up
clear,
roadblocks.
getting clearance. This movie
References all kinds of
nonstop
stuff.
References entertainment and pop culture. It feels like they live in a real world. They mention Batman, but they mention Avengers. They mention movies. They mention music.
They mentioned musicians, Adele.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just felt organic. Like it didn't, all those other ones feel cheap because they go, oh, we're going to watch whatever Mulan. Like they just throw in Disney and you're like, that's a commercial. That's stupid. Like stop doing that. This movie, they mentioned DC and Marvel. They mentioned all these different studios that are not Paramount, that are not Nickelodeon.
Well, they mentioned Ferris Bueller.
They do.
That's Paramount.
That's Paramount.
Well, I did say they can't include Paramount.
That's the footage
But
they
honestly,
use.
it's the perfect choice of movie. The perfect choice of movie for these characters and what they're going through. That exact moment when they're like, I just want to be out in the world. That's I mean, that whole idea of wanting to leave the sewers. It's like, what do teenagers want to do? I want to get the fuck out of the house, man. I want to experience life, and that's what they're doing. And then that whole movie, that's what that whole thing's about. I mean, in an unrealistic fashion, but one of the best.
Yes,
right.
Sure. He found a parade on a school day.
That's a positive. Come on.
Who stages a parade on a school day?
So I loved that about this movie, though. As soon as they mentioned Batman, I'm like, Paramount, they don't have anything to do with Batman. This is great. And then they kept doing it. But again, that's the writers, and that's Seth and Evan. Like, these guys understand that people watching want to connect to not only the characters and each one's characterization and the family dynamic, but like we're all watching all these different movies and TV shows. And when you reference pop culture like that, it's going to click with people. And I thought it was great.
No, it was great. So this one, like everybody's been saying, is they want to get out of the house, they want to be accepted, and they run into April O'Neil, and she basically says that there's this criminal underlord named Superfly who is stealing all of these different pieces of technology.
I did it for you.
I know,
Wow.
Superfly.
I wasn't going to bring him up because he's a murderer, but
Oh, he is?
oh
yeah, that's probably a bad taste.
he murdered his girlfriend
Oh,
and
okay.
got away with it.
Oh.
Yeah. And then they tried to put him on trial for it, but he was so in the head from years of drug abuse and wrestling that he was deemed mentally incompetent and could not stand trial for the reopened case of his murdered girlfriend.
Okey-dokey.
You can thank Vince McMahon for
All of it?
throwing a lot of money at hiding that just so he could use him as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. True
Okay.
story. Yeah.
But voiced by Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, who's
Holy. Joe's just throwing microphones around here.
Getting excited
I know,
over here.
right?
I mean, I liked Ice Cube in the movie too, but damn,
Man, I miss Ice Cube doing this type of role. I mean, not that I've seen him in a lot of animated stuff, but I grew up with Ice Cube in Friday, and I just miss that
I
person.
didn't.
Oh, what'd you grow up with Ice Cube in?
from the NWA.
Oh, okay. But movie-wise, like, I miss that, like, fun, that attitude, that I miss that type of Ice Cube, and I haven't seen him in that type of performance. I didn't watch that Are We There Yet or whatever, so I don't know. Maybe
But he's funny.
he's done a lot of comedies with Kevin Hart for sure, but I mean, he's in top form here, and you can tell he's having a blast
Yes.
of a time. Like, so much fun, and he fits the the animation style and the character design for Superfly like perfect.
the attitude that he
I
brings to
wonder-
this
he was on
role.
screen.
I wonder, to that point, Justin, if they they knew what the characters were going to be, and then when they cast who they cast, if they went back and kind of like tweaked the animation or the character design.
When they got Paul Rudd for Mondo Gecko, they had to. I swear to God, they
As
must
soon as he started
introducing Paul Rudd.
Yes,
I
which I
love
thought
that.
was great.
Yeah.
But I think Justin, to your point about Jackie Chan and Ice and Paul Rudd and all of these other characters, I do think that they went back and were like, okay, can we make this look like Paul Rudd a little bit? And
John
Ice Cube,
Cena is Rocksteady.
which I think is, I got to tell you,
sure.
if you didn't know that was John Cena, they did enough modulation
Yeah.
of that voice where it's like, I think that is John. Obviously, Rogan's like, I don't do voices.
Right.
It's just Seth
Seth
Rogen.
Rogen is Bebop. Yeah.
So basically, Superfly is stealing all of these pieces of technology, and he is the counterpart of Splinter, where Splinter's like, humans are terrible, like, but we're just going to stay away from them. They're awful things. We're just going to stay away. Where Superfly's like, yeah, they're awful. I'm going to kill them all.
Well, they
Professor
murdered,
X Magneto.
That's exactly right.
and they murdered his dad, right? Like,
That's true.
So does,
Yeah.
I mean, he thinks that,
he did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. To kill the fly would be like,
Well, also, we haven't seen Kang. We haven't seen, we see Shredder in this, but
Krang.
there's Krang. Sorry, there's all kinds of characters that are still
Yeah.
s-
Oh,
ready
for
to
sure.
be used. But yeah, so they've got all of these mutants who were figures at one point when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And basically that they're stealing all these pieces of this.
And April's kind of trying to break the case. We should say April's in high school.
Yes. She's not working for Channel 6 News yet or whatever.
And so it's kind of cool to see like she's working for the school.
April O'Puke.
Yes, school journalism department, and she's known as Puke Girl because she did a broadcast. She was so nervous on the school system or whatever.
This felt like something out of Mitchell's versus Machines.
Well, and again, like this
in a
is
good way.
This is the gross out humor. This is the stuff kids are into, and this is this is not beneath Seth Rogen to do a
puke
minute
joke.
long.
I liked April O'Neil in this movie. Watching the movie and while watching it, thinking that thousands upon thousands of middle-aged men were furious and reported to boycott the movie because April O'Neil was a person of color and short and not, a tall white chick with a lot of cleavage. I'm like, for real? Like, it's a solid character in this movie.
She does her
likable.
character does not change. She is the exact same April O'Neil that we always knew. She just looks different.
But
who cares?
I mean, that's a whole. We talk about this, and every time people get outraged and stuff, it's like just
shut up.
Yeah. Don't watch it then. Like they grew up in a same time as us, but they didn't get the memo where it's like, everybody on movie and TV was white and looked a certain way, and that was not.
Name one black character on Friends.
Well, first of all, I didn't watch Friends. But
Ross dated a black girl for a little bit, but
he did.
But it was also
that's true. He was going to marry her, wasn't he, or something?
I think he had an Asian girlfriend too, didn't he? But
that's true.
But it was also like very reactive.
Yeah,
right. It was later in the run, and people were like,
people said,
"How do you live in New York City and only see white people?"
Right.
And they started to like. It was clearly a token.
That gal's really funny though. I think she's the host of like Who's Line now.
Yeah, she's an. I can't remember her name, but she's a known thing.
So like the Turtles are trying to track down. They're trying to stop Superfly.
But they don't know why, right? So April's kind of doing like the detective kind of.
Tyler.
Okay, she's kind of doing the investigative journalism thing and trying to figure out why he's stealing all this stuff. And the Turtles, like in their interaction, so she gets her bike stolen. They
kind of because of them.
Yeah, they're throwing. I mean, again, as teenagers, this is a really funny.
I gotta
scene.
tell you, this scene is. As a kid of the 80s and 90s, this scene is what we used to do.
Sure,
we're like,
got a bunch of weapons.
I'll tell you what, you stand against that wall. I'm going to throw this baseball as hard as I can.
Why does the target have to be shaped exactly like my head?
That's a great line. That's a great line.
It is. It's great.
Just like you're standing around with your buddies and you're bored,
goofing around,
and I'm just like, you just stand over there. I'm going to throw this dart. Just put your hand on the wall.
Lighting stuff on fire, throwing stuff, whatever. Just doing,
Hey, how many bottle rockets can I strap to this figure to get them to take off from the ground?
Don't you miss when life was so dangerous when you were kids?
And so they throw a ninja star.
No, now I have kids. I'm glad it's not as dangerous.
It hits April though, and she's yelling at them. They're up on the roof and can't see their giant turtles, obviously. And then meanwhile, a guy takes the bike, brings it back to their warehouse of thugs, you know, and this is a great fight scene.
I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I was literally at the edge of my seat, just like, oh my god! And the way that we see them fight,
so
we've
cool.
never seen them fight like
this. Is
ever.
Right. This is as close to actually. I don't want to say violent, but you know how the original comics were more violent, and then it turned into kids stuff, and it was very they don't ever get to use their weapons.
There's a comic with art by Richard Corbin. If you don't know who Richard Corbin is, do yourself Google that. Throw that in your Google machines.
Okay.
And it's the Turtles have gone to get it's kind of Turtles in Time where they end up on a pirate ship, and Donatello.
My daddy worked on a pirate ship.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, Donatello. Idiot. Donatello has his bow, right? And Richard Corbin is kind of notorious for pretty detailed violence. He hits a guy in the back of the head and it carves a hole.
Oh, jeez.
And it's that's the stuff that was in Turtles comics.
Yeah, right.
So it's obviously they're not going to do that.
Yeah, and in this movie, it's not like they're chopping heads off and stuff. You don't see blades going into people, but they're kicking ass, and it is.
They are. Raphael is extremely violent in the movie, and they allow him to be violent until the end. He never lets he's literally beating the out of these dudes and enjoying it.
Yeah,
I've
been waiting for this my whole life.
But it's great. So we get to actually see some kick-ass action scenes with the turtle. Very well done. The animation looked great. You get the old Old Boy homage, which is awesome.
Fantastic.
With the sideways fight and everything. It's a great sequence. And then
also we get ninja rap, which I knew was going to show up.
Man.
I just was waiting for it to happen. It's 2 seconds, but I'm like,
when I heard it, I was like, that is fantastic.
Seth Rogen told Jeff Rowe to put it in the movie,
did he really?
and he's like, yeah, I agree. This is great. This is
Vanilla Ice is like, ooh, I could use that picture.
Heck yeah. So they do the fight, and then April comes back.
Sorry, Rob Van Winkle. Sorry.
Oh, he's not Vanilla.
Rob's a good guy.
I'm sure he is a good guy. I'm honestly, trust me. Ice Ice Baby was a huge song when I was growing up. So
I mean, who wouldn't?
No, it's just an interesting thing that I saw him play that live, and then I smoked a blunt with him in my car at the gas station for 2 hours.
Well, that's
and
awesome.
I'm not joking. I've got the pictures and
awesome.
And actually got to talk to him about that being in that movie and stuff, and he's still to this day extremely proud of it.
That's awesome.
So I just sorry, had to throw.
Is he proud?
When do I get the opportunity to talk?
Is he
about
proud
it?
of Cold as Ice?
You know what? I didn't ask that one. I do own it on Blu-ray. Though.
Is it signed?
Okay, but who, at the height of turtle popularity, who wouldn't want to be in a turtle and make the song for a turtle movie? But anyway, you get that little Easter egg. But anyway, so she goes into the warehouse and she's like, I can see you guys. Now they're good humor. They're all hiding behind stuff. And they come out and she's the only one, like, for all the interactions with mutants and humans.
She's like,
she's just like, oh, you guys these are costumes. Oh, they're not. And she kind of like freaks out a little, but she's like, oh, I mean, she adjusts to it very quickly.
Yeah.
And, I think that plays into the, like, she's been picked on in school and everything. And so she's like not quick to jump and be like afraid of them. And she's very accepting. And they team up. They team up to figure out what Superfly is doing. And
they meet Superfly, and this is where they all meet mutants, and they're like, we're cousins, we're all we all came from the same ooze.
They meet them because they're trying to track down and steal this component because they know Superfly's up to no good. And then when they team up with them, essentially, like you almost get this like this pull between, like, we're Splinter's our dad and he's our family, but like, these are other mutants as well, and they came from the same ooze. And that is funny when Ice Cube's like, that means we're cousins. And they're like, hey, what's up, cousin?
We get that awesome bowling alley scene, which again, just so much fun to watch.
It is. It all, you get all these mutant characters, and the animation's fantastic. The art style works wonderfully with all these different character designs. But they essentially go on this heist, like they team up with the bad guys, and they explain the plan during that awesome bowling scene and everything. But we realize that the plan is not good.
They're going to kill everyone.
The Ice Cube's like, humans are scary. And they're like, they're kind of on board. It's like, so we're going to kill all humans and it will just be mutants.
And that's basically where we end up. Is it becomes the turtles versus the mutants, and it's a giant fight sequence in this warehouse, like this TCRI like facility. They
capture the turtles, and April runs off, and they're basically like, oh, I can't believe she abandoned us. But she goes to get Splinter. Now Splinter is not familiar with April. They've been sneaking around behind his back, and they're like, all right, Dad, yep, we're good. Like, they're doing the thing. They sneak off to their room, and he tries to get him, like, I know you guys.
Birthday party or whatever.
He's like,
the three Chris's.
Dude, when we saw the stand-up of the Chris's, that was hilarious. That's the kind of stuff they do, which is so funny. But he's like, you guys can't go to the human world. I'll bring the human world to you. And it's a very sweet moment between them, and he worked really hard to put on this party, but they're like, okay. They kind of, they're like, we got stuff to do. So anyway, she comes to Splinter, down to the sewers to Splinter, and is like, hey, I'm April O'Neil, I'm friends with your son. And he's just like, what is going on here? And she convinces him, he's like, they're in trouble, we got to go help them. And so they go get him, and Splinter ends up coming to save the day in another great action sequence.
Oh yeah, he whoops.
We get to see Splinter fighting, using his skills that he learned to train the boys. He now gets to fight, and it's awesome. He's fighting all the bad guy, whatever they're called, the tactical team,
not the Foot.
Because like the
henchmen.
There you go. But that's great, and he ends up unlocking them, and he's like, wait a minute, were they trying to milk you?
Like, they were.
I knew it.
Shoot your eye out.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is a great joke throughout the entire thing. And
it
then
seems
of course,
so crazy, and like the fact that it pays off.
And of course, at the very end, when the turtles are captured and they're put into these contraptions, they're basically getting milked of what I thought was, I guess, just their blood. I don't know what that was.
I figured, their blood that has the ooze in it or whatever.
Well, they're trying to extract the
mutagen as to why, like, these
them.
guys worked and the other ones couldn't work or whatever. And he's like, I'm being
It hurts
milked.
so bad.
And of course, like the vat of the liquid that they've been extracting falls into the water, like the ocean, with Superfly. And we get like to the point where Gwen was like, I don't like that. So I took the girls,
weird.
and it's weird, and it's a little gross, and it's a little,
Yeah, it's all different animals are like making up. His feet are horses, like
horses
just
on there?
tons
Yeah.
of horses, like all clumped together.
Did I see an elephant on his face?
it was because like he walks into a zoo,
Yeah.
and of course since he is covered in this ooze,
He like melds with all these
different
mutations.
animals.
It's gross.
It's gross.
Like, it's
a
straight
little
up
gross.
R.I.P. all those poor innocent animals.
But I guess they're not dead though, right? Because as soon as he gets hit with the D whatever, they fall off. Horses run away.
Yeah, right.
But I guess the water ones, like they're unless they get them in the water, they're pretty.
They day it. The fight takes place in down. Superfly gets covered in the goop. He becomes like
super duper fly.
super duper fly, like a
Becomes
kaiju.
Stay Puft Marshmallow
That's
Man.
exactly right. Yes, I thought the same thing when I was watching it. And the turtle, they realize that the only way they can stop him is they have to get this little canister of like demutanizer inside of him
Into his blowhole.
It's not the blowhole. It's not doing any good on the outside. And this is where our turtles,
Well, like they shoot it at one of his horses,
And
on
a
his
horse
foot, and a
runs
horse
away.
runs away.
And
It's
the
like
horse just
they
scampers
yeah, they
off.
can't just shoot.
Hilarious moment,
Yeah.
too, though.
But I think that this is our turtles have.
I don't need that little horse. Ice Cube is so funny in this movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Just to reiterate.
But our turtles haven't. They've gotten the base of the characters right so far. That Raphael's the mad one, right?
Yeah.
And this is the moment when the turtles really embody like their characters. So Leonardo steps up and becomes the leader and says like, you go do this, you go do this. Donatello, you're the smart one. Like figure out a way to get this thing done. Raphael, you go do what you do. And he's like, I got it. And like tears off. And then Michelangelo is like, you're good at improvising. Like how are, do this.
I love that he wants to join the improv thing at school. They go to high school and have this moment with April, and then
Right.
he's signing
He's
up
in
on
the
the list.
improv.
They're not going to let
He's
you.
like, you don't even have a last name.
Oh, that is really funny too. I love that kind of meta moment where they're like, "What are our last names? Do we have last names?" Like we've never really questioned that. Or if you're like
Nardo.
you're Leonardo, and he's like, "No, I'm Leon Ardo."
I'm Leon Ardo.
They're like, "No, you're Leonardo, from now on."
And they get, they obviously, as you're going to do in these movies, they get caught, and you think they're not going to make it. They're going to.
Oh
make
yeah,
it.
I was worried.
But I will
I never
say,
thought they weren't.
there's a moment where like it's something I don't think we've seen before. Is Superfly has them like crushed in like a claw, and their shells
Are
start to
cracking,
cracking,
yeah.
and I was like, that must really be.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen that.
I don't think so.
I was
I've
actually
never
like,
The only thing
a
I
little
could
bit
think
scared
is
for
we
him.
were talking about The Last Ronin, and I think that the comic book I think it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Well, I think there's a reference to that
Okay.
in the comic somewhere.
But we've never seen them like that dead to rights, right? Because the turtles are gonna live. Of
course.
we've never seen their shells crack. I mean, it does seem like
That would hurt a lot.
an imminent threat.
Yeah.
It would definitely would hurt.
And of course, the turtles get loose and they work together as a team, and they end up.
Well, this is New York saves them,
Of
basically.
course, yes, and we
Which
get,
was very much Spider-Man 2, was it? Where they all hold them up.
yeah,
And,
God, I love
and
that
then
movie.
Amazing Spider-Man's the one
But
where the
I-
construction workers
with
do all the...
with Tom. Who was the
I know. I can't remember who was the guy.
the guy that
the
he was
construction worker.
in blackface as a kid in a comedy. See Michael Thomas Howell.
Oh, okay. Soul Man. He's
Yes,
in Soul Man. Yeah.
which is super
Yes.
problematic. But yeah, he's like the construction worker. I was like, hey, wait a minute, that's
Yeah. Like, how does he?
what character are you going to become later?
But it was just kind of a retread of that. It doesn't ruin the movie.
No, not at all.
And it's
But-
a nice moment, but we've kind of seen that before. And as much as like other things have reminded us of other movies, like Tom.
You mean like Starship Troopers?
Which one's that?
The whole last part of this, the whole scene. There's a whole scene
Yeah.
in Starship Troopers where there's a giant bug, and Johnny Rico, played by Casper Van Dien, shoots a hole into the bug. And takes a grenade and throws it into the hole, and it blows up the bug.
There you go.
And then, so I'm watching this. I was like, "Oh, Starship Troopers! Like
But
it's the same thing."
I don't know why.
I'm sure Seth's a fan.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Like Paul, it's a fantastic movie. If you've never seen it.
I don't know why. That was the only part that like the whole movie I loved, and again, it doesn't ruin it. But just the whole New York teaming up thing, it seemed like too much of a retread of these other New York pitching in to save things. I don't know, whatever. But they do. And
I don't disagree with you, Kevin. I think at the same time, I think a lot of the stuff in this movie, for the younger audience, they've probably never seen that stuff.
Yeah.
In Spider-Man 2 or Amazing Spider-Man.
Maybe, yeah.
Or, so I think it was just something, we live in a world right now, especially for the youth, where in terms of that acceptance and stuff, it's a good thing for them to see like a society together and helping each other out kind of thing.
Oh, that's a great point too, because it is a good scene. It's like when me and Joe think stuff is original, and Tom's like, they did that on
They did that in the 40s.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So-
this is so with the Gary Shandling show. You were like, oh, I really like how Gary Shandling like stops the show and talks directly to the audience. I've never seen that before, and I'm like, here's literally George Burns doing that in the like late 40s. Like, and it's the same premise that it's like he has a sitcom, and the sitcom is like he stops the show to talk to the audience about the sitcom that's happening. It like is so fresh and modern that you would never expect to see.
It's crazy.
George Burns and Gracie Allen doing that.
But which would make sense where like comedians are
they grew
inspired.
up watching.
Like that's totally inspired by that stuff, and the same way that you see now Seth and Evan and Jeff and all the people involved with this, all the writers, like they're making stuff that is an homage to stuff they grew up with, right? It all kind of builds upon. But they save the day. They throw the thing in there.
He shrinks back to normal, and well, actually, I guess
horses run off.
Yeah, he shrinks back to a fly, to a normal fly.
Right, not even a super fly.
He's a super fly.
He turns to fly.
And of course, now it is weird how Bebop and Rocksteady they've not made them villains.
Well, all of them.
Yeah, I guess
that's the thing. I'm
true.
like, where do we go from here? Because Bebop and Rocksteady are such classic villains, and they're total goofball, just horrible.
Right.
They're the henchmen, that always mess things up and all that. And I'm like, now all the mutants are part of the family.
It's going to be Toka and Razor.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, and there's tons of other ones.
They're
left,
from Ninja Turtles 2, Tom. I'm not sure if you knew who those characters
I
were.
have no idea what I just thought they were models of cell phones. I didn't remember.
But I'm just like, that's interesting to take some of a good handful of your classic villains and turn them as kind of part of the family.
Good guys.
Yeah, so I don't know where they're going to go from there.
I don't know. But, we do know where they're going for part 2.
I mean, we do know the threat that's looming.
Cynthia realizes that they have lost all of the mutants with the exception of the fly, and the boss, like not the boss, but like the head henchman is like, what are we going to do? And she's like, I put in a call, and the screen kind of pulls out to what I assume is New Jersey, because it's across the I don't know.
It's a really cool imagery though, with the city and the water and like lightning.
We've got a guy called the Shredder, and it's like just the Shredder in silhouette.
Yeah, looking what his armor looks like with his spikes
right.
and stuff.
And Kevin Nash is coming back as Super Shredder.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope. Sorry guys, I don't mean to cut off. I gotta
For
scoot.
sure.
No, you're good.
You want to do your end plugs
Sorry,
and all
my
that
wife
stuff?
just popped in and she's like, we have to go. So.
Do you want to do your plugs?
Sure, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
go for it.
Go for it.
So yeah, you guys can find me at Epic Film Guys on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, literally everywhere. And our podcast can be found anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Thanks for joining us again. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Sorry about
No,
that.
you're good.
No,
I
you're
wish
good.
I could have stayed longer.
No, good. Run, man. You're good.
I'll send you your
All
track,
right.
Kevin.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, dude.
See it. But yeah, I think it's cool. It's a cool setup. I like that they didn't use Shredder as the villain, just like putting the Joker and everything. He'd use different villains, introduce all these different mutants, tease Shredder. What a great tease.
That is the advantage of not doing the original origin, is because the Shredder is a part of that original origin. So when you change that, you're not reliant on bringing him in immediately.
Yeah.
You can keep him off the books for because that's the thing, is if you read those original issues, I think he's gone at the end of issue 1 and doesn't come back until like issue 5 or 6.
That I think they kill Shredder in the original series.
He's off the books.
Yeah,
He does not die. At least in the original like first 10 to 12.
but I think that they did. Shredder was gone. Like he was done. They beat him. I remember they killed him, but I could be wrong. But
yeah,
and he was so popular of a villain that he became.
I've got that second appearance.
There you go.
Yeah, this
is one of the most fun movies I've been to all year at the theater.
Yeah,
I think this was a blast.
Yeah, it was well done. It was well written. It wasn't it's a short. I think it's like 90 minutes, maybe.
2 of these equals an Oppenheimer, half an Oppenheimer. This got Tom to enjoy Turtles, right? So
I enjoyed this. I mean, I wasn't like, I don't know that I'd ever watch it again, but I had fun watching this movie.
Yeah, it was really well done. I think I really hope we don't get an oversaturation of this animation style. Like I
don't know that I don't think it's doing enough business to justify copies.
Well, I just mean the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
version.
But I feel like, again, I don't feel like this is a flat out rip off of
No.
Spider-Verse.
Nope.
I feel like they can experiment. They feel like now they can experiment with different animation styles.
Yeah.
So I think if you see this again, you won't realize you're seeing it again because it'll be,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah.
They'll take the base model and
The idea of not everything's got to look the same and then lean into whatever the property is.
yeah, that makes sense.
The creatives said they wanted the animation style to look unfinished. So a lot of it looks very sketch-like.
Yeah.
The words in the background are like not spelled out. They're scribbly. It's a very much a sketch brought to life, which is really cool. It had the choppiness of Spider-Verse, but the animation style, the art design is different than Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse has more of almost a 3D cell shaded looking. The animation, it's stop motion in like the frames that they use, but the art direction is that hand-drawn style, which we have not seen. So it did feel fresh,
Right.
But definitely Spider-Verse paved the way for big animated movies can look different than CG.
Oh, yeah.
Like Tom said, the Pixar style, which has become the base.
No,
kind
I
of the
think,
base
and
model.
I want to touch on this real quick. Is I can't think of any other comic creators that have made so much money off of one thing, and that's it. Like Eastman
McFarlane and Spawn, maybe.
But nowhere near the Turtles.
McFarlane
Yeah.
had Spider-Man before. Now he's not the creator of Spider-Man,
Right.
but he did create a look that became kind of synonymous with Spider-Man.
But he doesn't make the money off of that.
He makes money from toys.
There's a reason that he left Marvel.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, these guys kind of got lucky in that
They did it on their own.
they did it on their own and they own it outright.
and they never sold the rights until
Yeah.
recently.
Because even then, like, I was like, the guy got $60 million was just not nothing, but it's also like, boy, it's probably worth way more than that.
Without
But I guess
question.
also, if you're just a dude that was drawing comic books in your basement, and he'd already probably made tens of millions.
Well, he was
of girls.
making money off the toys and stuff before that.
Yeah,
So,
so he's just like 60 million, and I'm done. Okay,
I mean,
You got it.
Eastman left because of their little riff and did his own thing. And man, Laird was just
ran with
bringing,
it.
just raking in the dough from all those partnerships and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it is cool if you watch
There's
like
2 docs, right?
there's so many different YouTube videos and stuff. There's a couple different docs, but it is cool to see that Eastman and Laird have kind of buried the hatchet.
Yeah.
They got together at Comic-Con or something and like did an interview together, and there was bad blood for a while. Like these two were best friends. We'll try to post the link online. There's a really good doc that
There's a really good
shows
doc.
what they went through, but like best friends living together, doing this thing, totally indie, all the success, but they had different direction, and Eastman
Yeah.
ends up leaving, and it's really tough because like these were two guys that were best friends, and
Yeah, it's.
I hope one day we can have a fight like that.
over our millions and
me
millions of
both,
dollars.
buddy.
Yes, I would be more than happy to throw either of you under the bus for tens of millions of dollars.
Without question.
I live for the day that I can do that.
I will say there's a really good podcast called Cartoonist Kayfabe with, I'm trying to think of it. It's Ed Pisker and Jim Rugg. And they're just 2 comic creators, but they also love comics. And I wish I could remember the episode number. Just go to their, if you can find it. They dive deep into Eastman and Laird and the Ninja Turtles. It's really good. They've got a really good show. Comic or Cartoonist Kayfabe, that's the name of it.
Okay.
So this movie made $24 million on I think that was the 3 days. So this was a 5-day opening, and it made 42 to 50 million. So it sounds a little better on a 70.
That's pretty good.
No, they're
Domestic.
They're 3/4 of the way there in the opening weekend. And the other thing, I think that means you'll probably get more of these, because the other thing to keep in mind,
The toys,
right?
I mean,
Like,
these
if this
movies are
movie-
made to sell.
If this movie can break even, but it gooses toy sales, then
yeah.
it's justified its existence.
If
and
you
you'll
are a
get
fan
more.
of NECA, like the action figure company, like
There's some great ones. I love the monsters.
they're great.
The Universal
They
monsters.
just put out a Casey Jones one. I just saw.
I will say, go to Target, and there's an entire toy aisle dedicated to Turtles. Like they are making bank.
Yes.
they are happy
They're
with that.
doing just fine.
So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find
This is
it.
Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21, also on Letterboxd at the same.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, scientists decided to use the Z plan.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already